Right, now we're going to have three reasonably short, quick-fire presentations. The first one by Clare Bradley, who is the Chief Executive Officer of AgriSea New Zealand Seaweed Limited. She's going to be talking about aquaculture innovation. Clare is the Chair of Aotearoa New Zealand Seaweed Association and the CEO of AgriSea New Zealand Seaweed, a Maori-owned and family-operated business that has been making products from seaweed for over 25 years. Clare is passionate about creating a world-class, high-value and regenerative seaweed sector for Aotearoa. Gaining extensive experience working with remote communities, such as people in the Amazon rainforest, as well as our coastal communities and farmers in Aotearoa, Clare understands the need to develop a high-value industry that supports the needs and values of the communities it serves. She coaches netball, touch, cricket and any other new sport her children will get into, and her enthusiasm to learn from the world keeps her both busy and hungry for more. Please welcome to the stage, Clare Bradley.
Kia ora. I whānau mai au i te taha o te awa o Tamaki Makaurau. I raro i te maru o te maunga kia kia. I uri ahau no ko te mana, no airangi, kei te noho au, kei pairo, ko Clare Bradley tōku ingoa. So seaweed. For many of you, it might be that weird thing that when it brushes across your legs in the sea, you have an irrational fear about what lies beneath the surface. For others, they might just think about sushi. For some, it's a world of opportunity, the future. But for all of us, it is necessary for our survival. It creates masses of oxygen into our atmosphere, it draws down carbon, it helps with ocean warming and acidification, and is an important part of our survival. So let's take a little bit of a deeper look. There are over 10,000 seaweed species all around the world, and we have about 10% of those occurring here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. There's only about 10 so far that have been of commercial value, and many seaweed innovators are frustrated at some of the regulations where they can't access seaweed. But I also think because seaweed is so vital to our survival, actually the regulations have done a good job of protecting our underwater rainforests. Anywhere in the world, seaweed is classed by its colours: reds, greens and browns. Our reds are the highest global production, about 68%. And it's primarily done through small-scale farming in the likes of Indonesia, Philippines, and is sent to China for large-scale processing. It's used primarily in alginates, thickening agents. It's probably in your toothpaste and your shampoo and a whole range of things that you don't even realise. Our browns, they're about 38%. And those primarily are our food sources. So think your seaweed salads, your sushis. It's the basis of many of the stocks of our Asian diets. Our green seaweeds are seeing renewed interest. They're only about 1% of our global production currently, but there's a massive increase in interest, both because of the way it can soak up excess nutrients, but also it's got really good protein content. In terms of the markets, like I said, those traditional markets are in our food and our hydrocolloids, so our agars and thickening agents. It's pretty well established. It's got really low labour units in terms of its production systems, and from my perspective, it's not really the target for New Zealand. When we're looking at our emerging markets, the stuff that's starting to grow, we're seeing this whole idea of biorefinery. How can we extract the maximum value of each piece of seaweed for multiple products? This huge increase in using seaweed for agriculture and horticulture, not only as methane inhibitors, but in that biological space. Then there's the nutraceuticals, the high-value function foods. This is an emerging space. It's, New Zealand has this incredible coastline. It's got this rich species diversity of seaweeds. It's got a really good reputation for food and beverage. It's got this incredible advantages. So you think if we've got 1,000 species, probably about 10 different uses for each one of them, where do we focus? Where do we focus as Aotearoa? Where's our advantage? So in order to help answer that, recently we've set up the Aotearoa New Zealand Seaweed Association. This is a membership group of over 60 organisations, ranging from whānau and hapu and iwi through to research organisations, through to wannabe seaweed investors. The money into seaweed is coming thick and fast globally. So seaweed takes no land, it takes no fresh water, it takes no fertiliser to grow. We've got a massive advantage here in Aotearoa. However, we're not structurally set up to take advantage. The system lacks investment and regulations are a struggle. Seaweed use goes back millennia globally. Here in Aotearoa, we have kāringo that's used as a high protein food for our indigenous cultures. But internationally, seaweed's been used to feed people and to feed our crops, our livestock, and remediate our soils. Unfortunately, its reputation has had a hammering in Aotearoa by the snake oil brigade. It has left us far, far behind the rest of the world. Those people who attended the Salinas Biologicals Conference in California recently will know that the biological sector is set to triple in the next 10 years. We've got to make a move. But seaweed is not seaweed. Like I said, we've got these thousands of species, but also how we process seaweed is important for its efficacy. Think of that red seaweed, Asparagopsis, that helps methane. It's bioactive as a bromoform. If not handled and processed right, you release it back into the atmosphere, and so you've got little activity in the actual product. Seaweed is not seaweed. What we do know is that research into seaweed use for agriculture is on the rise. It has doubled. The number of publications have doubled in the past 20 years. And if my recent trip to the International Seaweed Symposium, which is its 75th year, I know, it's crazy, but if that's anything to go by, the publications in this last decade has probably doubled again. And its uses in agriculture and horticulture are varied, from biostimulants, from soil amendments, to animal health products. So what does the future of seaweed use in agriculture look like in Aotearoa? We've got ability for seaweed to help with climate mitigation and resilience. Again, we talk about the red seaweed with our methane. We've got ability to reduce our nitrous oxide and nitrate leaching, carbon sequestration. We've got people in the audience who are working hard in this space. If we're starting to grow seaweed, and when seaweed filaments fall off, they settle down in our sediment, sequestering carbon. But also the products that we make from that seaweed, people are starting to put it into concrete and things like that to add carbon. But there's a caution there, because we don't want to see large monoculture cropping systems in our ocean. We want thriving, healthy, functioning ecosystems. In terms of sustainability, it's not fertiliser or biostimulants. They can work together. There's an and. It's nutrient efficiency, it's soil health, it's connection of microbial life to pasture in soils. There's water efficiencies that we can create. There's bioactives and gels and things that come from seaweed that help our drought-prone crops hold water and get better growth. And bioremediation, this idea of using seaweed to capture nutrients. We're busy planting trees along our waterways, and we should be planting seaweed in our coastal ecosystems. We've seen the devastation of Gabriel on our on-land farming. But if you take a look under the water, you will see the sedimentation that is coming down off our land and smothering our underwater forests. And also our productivity and profitability. There's value add. There's markets in Japan who want seaweed-fed meat. It tastes good. They know that it's better for them because there's all these actives and antioxidants that come through that show that it's better for human health. But it's also a risk mitigation strategy. If we can produce food in a way that connects to our consumers with localised value chains, then people are willing to pay more for that. So this all sounds a little bit far-fetched and exciting and future-looking. off into the distance, but there are some things that are happening here and now in Aotearoa. This is an example of a product. I think the latest paper was published end of last year. There's about 7 peer-reviewed papers on this product, which was developed through some funding from Callaghan Innovation at Lincoln University. Not only does the seaweed bioactive help animals' weight gain, performance, health and well-being, but it also showed an 18% reduction in urinary nitrogen. This recently won the Field Days Innovation Prototype Awards. Some more work being done at Lincoln, using seaweed as biostimulants, linking the health of our soils, our plants, our animals, and ultimately our humans through consuming those goods produced in that manner. This feeds into a much larger project because there is no silver bullet. It's not going to be gene editing, it's not going to be new cultivars of ryegrass, it's not going to be a seaweed product, it's going to be a collective approach. Rerekiuta, Rerekitai talks about our links to soil, sea, and society. If our farmers start with increasing the value of soil, its mana, its mauri, what decisions do they then make on their farm? And what actions do those decisions affect on their financial well-being, their productivity, their profitability, their animal health, and their sustainability and market access? It's a pretty multi-collaborative project, this one that's underway through our Land and Water. And this is an old slide, and so I've seen you in the audience, Alison, and so Waikokopu is also part of this, providing know your number situations for the farms involved in this. But there's also other people involved in this large multi-pronged research project. So let's say that we can do all of this cool stuff with seaweed. It can help our climate, it can help us be more efficient, it can help us produce high-value products. Do we have enough of it? This is a project that is underway growing seaweed alongside our mussel farms here in New Zealand, looking at the productivity. And I've also seen recently, coming offshore, the co-location of wind farms and seaweed growing operations. Because like I said, the truth is the seaweed is our life support system. No seaweed, no fisheries. It's a simple fact. And hello, ocean deserts and collapsed economies. Seaweed is already under pressure, and what we're doing on land affects the health of our moana. So what about growing it on land? This is a project like using that green seaweed. This is in Kopu in Thames there, at the mouth of the Waiho River estuary, out and folds out into Te Kapamoana. This project, through these pilot ponds, are soaking up 90% of the nitrogen and 80% of the phosphorus that's coming down that river. It grows in low salt areas. This is an open IP project. We're keen to share it with those who are interested in developing this technology, because this whole idea of biocircular economies means that nutrients aren't bad, they're flowing down our rivers, but let's capture them, let's reuse them, let's be efficient, let's not make waste streams. Another example of not creating waste streams is this project where we've developed nanocellulose, which is like a really fancy high-tech stuff that I'm still coming to grips with from our waste stream of our biostimulant process. So, how seaweed will shape our future? It could be its own sector in its own right. We'll have thriving coastal communities, high-value products, influencing the health of our land and our future to farm. But there's also a caveat to this exciting future of seaweed, because it depends on a number of factors. How do we strategically take this opportunity? How do we build a sector that takes lessons from the sectors who have come before us? And how do we mobilize our people and resources? And how do we open our minds to the possibilities of new and cutting-edge science that clearly shows marine plants or seaweed added to on-land production systems adds benefits. So let's design how we want to shape our seaweed future. We're not going to do it on our own. It's going to be a collaborative effort, and those who are in sectors who have grown and learnt, we really welcome you to join us and become part of seaweed in your future. And I'm going to leave you with a 60-second video that was played. We won the Māori High Tech Company of the Year in 2022, and it gives you just a little insight into our future.
It was a chance meeting, you could say. We happened to sit next to these two mad scientists, and they started talking about hydrogels and nanocellulose and stuff that went way over our head, and we're just like, let's just keep drinking, shall we? It's this really cool gooey product that comes out of our seaweed. It's almost like Play-Doh. It's like adult Play-Doh.
We had no idea what it was until this partnership with Scion. We can use it to replace plastics. We can use it in medical devices and breathing apparatus, for wound healing, for seedling gels.
So it's really, really exciting seeing what different organisations are coming up with uses for this. Agrisea is a Māori-owned intergenerational family company based out of Pauru.
We create products from seaweed. Anything seaweed, we love it. We want to be proud of the work that we do in 50 to 100 years' time. Let's build something awesome.
Thank you.